I thank y'all for being here with us today. We're meeting in the gymnasium over at Senatobia Church of Christ. We meet here every Sunday morning from 9 to 11 o'clock, and we also meet here Tuesday afternoon at 6 o'clock and Thursday afternoon at 6 o'clock. And we'd like to encourage y'all to come on down, be a part of it. We meet in the gymnasium. We got a lot of good space in here. We even got some uh, bleachers up that some people could get up into bleachers if we could get enough people coming over here. That'd be a good thing. So I want to encourage y'all to come on down and be a part of it. If you can't, we appreciate you being here on the YouTube, Facebook Live to get all my stuff right a little. Anyway, we are the living branches, and what we want to do is we want to be fruit-bearing trees for the God that we serve, and we stay connected to the vine. We're going to produce some good fruit for God and for each other. The name of our presentation is always the game changer, the method of the coaches. What we do is we try to get people to start reviewing their film on a daily basis instead of reviewing everybody else's film on a daily basis and try to learn from our mistakes, capitalize on our mistakes. In reality, we grow by our willingness to face and rectify mistakes and convert them into assets. And I like to say this, I love saying this. I heard this a long time ago. A smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from everybody's mistakes. So at the end of the day, we just want to review our day, learn from our mistakes, knowing that we're going to fall short every day of perfection. But as long as we're aiming high, aiming for perfection and claiming spiritual progress, we'll be on the right road. So the method of the coaching is very simple. We just want to review our film, take advantage of our mistakes, and not let our mistakes take advantage of us. So we're going to open. No, we're not either. Let's see. We putting these things. What we're doing is we're trying to get a strong YouTube channel going, and we're gonna put if our all our stuff goes good, we're gonna put our presentation today on our YouTube channel. And if you want to find our YouTube channel, just search on YouTube, Living Branches, Method of the Coaches, and look for our symbol, and that is our symbol. And I want to encourage y'all to subscribe to it, and then pass it on to other people so other people can see what we're doing down here in North Mississippi. So we're going to open our session up with the serenity prayer, and everything we're going to do is going to be kind of surrendered around this prayer. We want peace. We want acceptance about the things we cannot change. And we want to concentrate on the things we can change, which is what's inside us, the courage to change and the wisdom to know the difference. And we want to summarize it with, thy will, not mine, be done. And it takes action to cut away from self-will and get in God's will. Learn more every day with increasing measure. So if y'all will, let's have a moment of silence and say the serenity prayer. Serenity prayer. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. So, we're going to start with time being a gift, not a threat. I can't speak for y'all, but I had many, many wasted days, wasted nights, feeding and fanning and nurturing what other people were doing or not doing instead of concentrating on what I needed to be doing or not doing. So I just want to throw that out there to start with. And the first question we're going to ask is what keeps us from accepting, I'm going to say reality, the realities in the game of life. What keeps us from accepting the gift of peace that God wants us to have? I think about this statement. It's in the good book. It says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. So I want to be a transmitter of peace. I don't want to be a transmitter of chaos. And a lot of times, before the peace is brought, the sword has to be brought. And so what we're going to do is we're fixing to go through a series of questions. And what the method of the coaches is all about in reality is us reviewing our personal film on a daily basis and trying to correct what's wrong with us instead of focusing on what's wrong with everybody else. So remember that I think this is such a very important reminder. Remember, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, which is really spiritual evaluation of spiritual awareness. How many of us, how many of us zero in on the flesh and blood and not see the source of power that's working in the flesh and blood? Now, if our struggle is not against flesh and blood, you know what that means? In simplicity, it means our struggle is not against flesh and blood. And it seems like we have to say that about 2 or 3 times before it gets registered in right here. So our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Y'all say it. Y'all say that out loud. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. What part of that can we not accept? How many of us have a hard time accepting with peace that our struggle is not against the flesh and blood? Do y'all struggle with that? Y'all think about it. Just food for thought. How many of us let personalities override principles? How often do we let the personalities of other people override us being honest, us being genuine, us being humble, us being patient, us being kind, us being loving? I mean, y'all believe that we're supposed to do our best to live at peace with one another as much as it depends on us, but it don't always depend on us, okay? So sometimes Kenny Rogers sang a song and said, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk. Sometimes you just got to flee the scene, okay? Think about that. Or you got to withdraw from whatever temptation or trap is being set for us through other people by the nature of darkness. Did y'all catch that? Through other people by the nature of darkness. So we got to expose the source of power that's operating in the people, which is really just a simple nature of mankind. So how often do we let this? I mean, y'all believe that's a choice. How often do we let personality? How many of y'all have a hard time with somebody else's personality? How many of y'all let somebody else's personality ruin your day? How many of y'all let personalities create a barrier between you and whoever? Now, who wants those barriers to be there? I can tell you this, it is not God. So the process of elimination, there's two spiritual forces. One is evil, one is good. How often do we get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only start fights? Is that a fair question? At the end of the day, if you got involved in a foolish, ignorant argument that started a fight, what part did you play in that argument? Truth of the matter is, it takes a whole lot of practice, a whole lot of self-restraint, and a whole lot of discipline to sidestep those temptations and traps. And I'll say this, it takes a whole lot of training, which is where discipline comes in, to not get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments. Y'all agree? Amen. How many y'all, there you go, brother. How many y'all, how often do we get lured into this? And I'm going to say this, here's what I believe lures us into it. Pride. Pride lures us into it. And as a rule, it's some kind of security in it, because a lot of times that pride is always spurred by a conscious or unconscious fear. But many times we're trying to prove ourselves right and prove somebody else wrong. And a lot of times we get involved in them because we want people to respect our point of view, and then they want us to respect their point of view. And the problem is, I believe we can disagree, but what we don't want to do is disagree in a resentful, critical spirit. And those words start coming out of our mouth. How many of y'all believe it would be very healthy for us when we disagree with somebody else to disagree in a kind and loving way? Y'all think that'd be a healthy practice? So how often do you personally focus on what others ought to be doing or not doing? And how many times do we focus on what others are doing or not doing instead of focusing on what we ought to be doing or not doing? How many of y'all believe we ought not be involved in this? How many of y'all believe we ought not let the personalities override the principles? How often did we need to remind ourselves that this body is a human vessel for the two superpowers? And a lot of times that old nature of darkness is going to operate through somebody, and we're going to be tempted to be drawn into all this stuff. And a lot of times that nature of darkness will use us to lure people into this kind of stuff. Make sense? And what it does, it keeps us from accepting the gift of peace, and we have no idea that in reality, when we look at it for what it really is, we're rejecting the gift of peace. Y'all ready for this one? Are y'all prepared? How many of y'all believe if we don't examine ourselves on a daily basis to see where we've been wrong? How many of y'all believe that's a healthy practice? Same thing coaches do. Not much to do with coaching. So how often do you complain? I want you to go back to Friday morning and just review the last 48 hours. How many of y'all got up this morning complaining, had that little complaint party going on in your head about what happened the night before or the day before? Y'all understand that? So the question is, how often do you complain? If you'll start looking at it like that, you'll see. I believe you'll be able to see. I've been able to see how often I do get caught up in it. It's kind of like that song says, "I'm caught in a trap. I can't walk out." And maybe we caught in a trap and can't walk out because we just don't know how not to. But God is teaching us and showing us how to sidestep the emotional booby traps that are baited with pride, and I'm going to get even with you. You never should have said that. You never should have done that. And then that little committee meeting kicks in the spiritual realm, and then we start grumbling, complaining, and fault finding. And when you start grumbling, complaining, and fault finding, it's going to be real easy for you to get drawn into more foolish and ignorant arguments. Does that make sense? So, who do you complain about? Y'all think about that. The personalities that we are allowing to override the principles. And I think if we would just slow it down, that's the reason we want to put these things on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, so you can stop it, meditate on it, and maybe get you a pen, a piece of paper, and jot some of it down so you can see it for what it is. Because what we're really trying to do is expose the nature of darkness, the nature of our wrongs. There's so many times what we do is we start shouting from the hilltop, what they did is just not right. What they said is just not right. That's the reason I don't watch the news no more, because I don't believe a lot of it. I believe, and I shouldn't even said that, but I said it anyway. But I just know that isolated statements are taken out of context, and what's said before and what's said after is not being presented. So just a one-sided deal. And who's behind all that? I'll tell you this, it's not the right source of power, I don't believe. Maybe because of the objectives. So we have to learn how to abandon our limited objective and get into our deeper objectives. And I believe our deeper objective should be that we want to live at peace with ourselves. We want to live at peace with our fellow man. And we want to live at peace with God. I mean, y'all believe that that's a good objective for us to be striving for on a daily basis. What do you complain about? Is that a fair question? How often do we get involved in all this stuff? Well, I believe that these are committee meetings that go on inside here that are extremely unhealthy for us. And then we start transmitting unhealthy thoughts and unhealthy actions because they start coming out of our mouths, and we start doing it with our. You ever been talking to somebody and you was just so genuine and so sincere, and they were doing like this, or they would do like this, or they would do like this? How much respect is that? How much respect are we showing one another when we start doing that? That's one of my favorite things to do. Just having fun. I'll look at somebody and I just go, y'all know about that? That's crazy, isn't it? How many people influence you? Y'all listen to this very close. This is a deep one right here. How many people influence you to get involved in their complaining party? How often do you call some of your close-knit friends and y'all have a little complaining party going on? Is that a fair question? You think that's a healthy question? You think that's a self-searching and self-examination question? To thine own self be true. I mean, if you're guilty, you're guilty. And if I'm wrong, I want to know about it. If I get caught up in this stuff, I tell you, I'm aware of it most of the time today. And when I do, I have to make some amends. I have to apologize. You know why I want to do that? Because I want to take the bullets out of the gun for the nature of darkness. I don't want any weapon formed against me to prosper. I don't want the weapon to prosper. I'm talking about the spiritual weapon. You understand what I'm saying? And buddy, he's got some weapons in his arsenal. If I said that right. How many people do you? We're fixing to reverse roles now. How many people do you influence to get involved in your complaining party? Y'all got them going on at work, don't you? Y'all got them going on at home, don't you? What about in Wally World? Y'all ever go to Wally World and start grumbling and complaining about what is and what isn't, and how come they got 20 registers open, 20 registers in this thing, and only got 2 of them open? And why do we have all these long lines in here? And why does somebody get up to the checkout stand and wait until they get their total before they go into their purse? I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, I'm just using an illustration. And start fumbling around to get whatever they're going to get out to pay for the pay part. And if somebody's paying in cash, they pull out the dollar bills and then they search for their little change purse. And then they come up with a nickel here and a dime there and a quarter there, and we sitting back there doing this. Y'all know what I'm talking about? What about you, Jenny? You know what I'm talking about? How often do you focus on the faults of others? Man, I've seen some people get tore up from the floor up, man. I get back there in one of them long lines and I start observing these people. And I start hearing that little committee meeting going on in front of me about how inconsiderate somebody is. You understand what I'm talking about? How often do you focus on the faults of others? How much time have you wasted personally? Remember, time is a gift. Remember the statement we put that time is a gift. We sleep about a third of our life. What do we do with the other 2/3 of our life? Wasted days, wasted nights. How, how much time have you wasted by being involved in all of the above questions? Isn't that a good question? Don't you think that's a good thing for us to start reviewing so we can see? Here's what I know. You can't correct something if it lies below the level of your consciousness. So if we were to examine ourselves to see if our faith is genuine, if we will test ourselves, and so many people want to test themselves and they're searching for answers, but so many people don't know the questions. And we're just throwing a few questions out there that can challenge our thinking so we can get deep. Okay? And I'm going to do one more. Was self restraint. Now, y'all, I want y'all to look at this. How many of y'all believe practicing self restraint takes a whole lot of practice? You understand what I'm saying? I think this is one of the biggest things that we have to practice. Practice self restraint takes a whole lot of practice. How many of y'all believe that we're gonna have to be practicing it with increasing measures for the rest of our life? Man, I see nothing but hands going up, man. So I hope they're going up right there. So was self-restraint involved in any of these? And I can tell you this, my belief is N-O is a complete sentence. How about discipline and self-control? I mean, y'all believe that we're undisciplined in a whole lot of ways, but if you look at all these questions and answer them honestly, we'll see how undisciplined we really are. That's what I believe. I know I've seen it for myself and self-control. But seeing it's one thing, putting it into practical application is something else. So we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop this presentation right now. We're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna discuss this among us. And then we're going to encourage the people who's watching this DVD or watching it, which is what we're going to try to make out of this, a DVD, so we can put it in treatment centers and prisons and jails and everything and try to get, so people can share it with their families. That's why we want people to uh, uh, get on our YouTube channel so it can be seen. And not that we've got all the answers, but I think we've got a whole lot of questions where we can all come up with the answers, some good, healthy questions. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll come up with part 2 of volume 1 of the method of the coaches centered around the Serenity Prayer. Thank you very much. God bless you.